It began as a cruel joke, an attempt to demean and humiliate. He thought it would be entertaining to see her flounder on the golf course, a sport synonymous with privilege and prestige. But in one unforgettable moment, she silenced the laughter, leaving the entire club in awe. Daniel Grayson, a self-made millionaire in his early 50s, epitomized wealth and status. Residing in an opulent mansion and driving luxury cars, he was a proud member of the prestigious Greystone Golf Club, a playground for the elite. Once humble, his success had hardened him, leaving him arrogant and indifferent to those he deemed beneath him. His household staff, including his housekeeper, Margaret Brooks, often bore the brunt of his condescending behavior. Margaret, a dignified woman in her 40s, carried herself with quiet strength. Despite enduring years of subtle slights and overt racism, she remained composed. Working for Daniel for over a decade, she supported her family and refused to let his treatment shatter her spirit. One evening, fueled by whiskey and boredom, Daniel concocted a plan. Why not invite Margaret to play golf at Greystone? The thought of her fumbling through the game in front of his wealthy peers seemed hilarious to him. The next morning, he called Margaret over with a mock sincerity that was hard to miss. "Margaret, care to join me for a round of golf tomorrow? It's a rare opportunity to visit Greystone. I'm sure you'll fit right in," he said, smirking. Margaret instantly recognized the insult masked as an invitation. Yet, instead of declining, she felt a spark of determination. "Sure, Mr. Grayson," she replied calmly. "I'll be there." The next day, Margaret arrived at the club, dressed modestly but neatly. Daniel, neglecting to provide her with proper golfing attire, had hoped she'd look out of place. As she walked through the entrance, curious glances and hushed whispers followed her. Who was this woman, and why was she here? Daniel greeted her with a smug grin. His friends, including his business partner Edward and several affluent acquaintances, stood by the first tee, anticipating a spectacle. "Ladies and gentlemen," Daniel announced, "I've invited my housekeeper Margaret to join us. I thought it would be amusing to see her try her hand at golf." Chuckles rippled through the group as Daniel handed Margaret a club. "Don't worry if it doesn't go far," he quipped. "It's all in good fun." Margaret met his sarcasm with a calm nod and stepped up to the tee. She had watched golf on TV but had never played. Gripping the club firmly, she took a deep breath, recalling the smooth swings of professional players. Then, with surprising grace, she struck the ball. The crisp sound of impact drew gasps as the ball soared down the fairway, landing farther than any of the men's shots. Stunned silence followed. Edward nearly spilled his drink, and Daniel's smirk vanished. "Lucky shot," he muttered, leading the group to the next hole. But Margaret's performance was no fluke. Hole after hole, she played with precision, consistently outdriving and outplaying Daniel and his friends. Her serene focus and natural form unnerved them. What began as a joke turned into an unsettling revelation. Margaret's talent was undeniable. By the ninth hole, Daniel's frustration was palpable. His ego, once buoyed by the prospect of humiliating Margaret, lay in tatters. Margaret, however, remained composed. She let her game speak, never once boasting or sneering. The final hole, a par 5 with a tricky water hazard, heightened the tension. Daniel, desperate to reclaim his pride, swung hard but sent his ball into the rough. Margaret stepped up, her eyes focused on the distant green. With an effortless swing, she launched the ball over the water, landing it mere inches from the hole. The spectators were awestruck. Even the club's head pro, who had been observing from a distance, approached to congratulate her. "That was remarkable," he said. "Ever considered playing professionally?" Margaret smiled modestly. "Just lucky today," she replied, though everyone knew her skill was no accident. Daniel's humiliation was complete. What began as his attempt to belittle Margaret had ended in her silent triumph. After the game, the group gathered in the clubhouse. Edward, ever the opportunist, jabbed, "Seems you brought the wrong person to humiliate, Daniel." Daniel glared but said nothing. Margaret sipped her water, her quiet dignity speaking volumes. In the days that followed, Daniel's attitude toward Margaret shifted. For the first time, he seemed subdued, even distant. His arrogance had been shattered, replaced by the sobering realization of his own vulnerability. Margaret's triumph left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. It was a powerful reminder that dignity, skill, and resilience could not be bought or diminished. Lesson from the story. The story brings a profound lesson that we should not judge people solely by appearance or social status. Respect, humility, and intrinsic dignity are essential in every relationship. Margaret proved that talent, drive, and confidence are not limited by background or circumstances. This reminds us that true strength lies not in wealth or power, but in spirit and willpower. Meaningful message. The story conveys the message of fairness and respect for people, regardless of circumstances or status. It encourages people to realize their own value and not let contemptuous words or actions from others reduce their confidence. Treat people with kindness, because you never know what extraordinary things they can bring to the table. I think this story is a clear proof that self-esteem and perseverance can overcome any barrier. Margaret not only overcame her boss's contempt, but also demonstrated her superiority in a humble and calm manner. That is a model for us to follow. When faced with injustice, let actions and character speak for themselves. This story teaches us to respect everyone, regardless of their status or position. True strength comes from within, and sometimes, the most unexpected individuals can inspire us to reflect on our values and behavior. If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content, and let's continue to share stories that make a difference.